What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. I hope you're having a fantastic day or night whenever you're listening to the show. Today we will, of course, be reviewing WWE Extreme Rules that was aired live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the Wells Fargo Center on October 8, 2022. It's crazy we're already making our way through October for this year. Guys, I think at this point we have all heard the news. If you haven't seen the show itself, we all got what we wanted, or at least the majority of us what we wanted, that being the return of Bray Wyatt. Not the Fiend Bray Wyatt, which is very intriguing amongst many other things, but Bray Wyatt himself, and not necessarily, I don't think he's going to be called White Rabbit, because he did make his, once he came out of the door, which we'll obviously be getting into later on, but he took his mask off, which we all know the Fiend did not do. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Bray Wyatt is and who he is and who the character is. And there's just so many questions, right? And that's one of the great things about the Bray Wyatt character is once we get one answer, we're left with like 1,000 more questions, which is the point, right? And I think especially with having episodic television, especially like a Monday Night Raw, you need a thread, you need something to carry over. And I think it's just a given that he's going to be on Raw. I think you have the Bloodline just owning SmackDown, and especially with Roman being on a very part-time schedule at this point, in regards to all shows, really, in general. I think you need something anchoring on Raw, especially since you don't have the champion, obviously, as well, or a heavyweight champion, for the time being. We do have Bobby Lashley, of course, but you don't have your heavyweight champion, right? That central piece on your flagship show, really. So I think, again, amongst many other reasons, it's just smart to bring back Bray and bring back someone with the mind of Bray Wyatt and of course, Wyndham Rotunda, the real life individual, the brilliance and the brilliant mind that he has. And it's just we're just so lucky to have someone. I mean, of course, obviously I wish, but I don't know the individual, but just seeing what he brings to television and just the glimpse that we get to see on TV weekly and whatever we get to see on social media and just whatever we get to visually see, just imagine the thought process and the time and the effort and the attention to detail that's going into it behind the scenes, and just the time that he has been sitting at home and just dwelling and just coming up with who knows how many ideas, so I'm so fucking happy he's back. Yes, there's all those questions about, what is he going to do, does it make sense, some people say he's not great in the ring and all this shit, and it's like, okay, but to me, like, this is just one of the things in wrestling that I'm just enjoying as it plays out. I am not stressing about his 3, 6, 8 month plan. That's not any of my concern. And frankly, it's none of my business, and it's so crazy because I sit here and I say this about Bray, right? But then, and later on in the show, I'd most definitely be saying, okay, well, what happens next for Riddle and Rollins and all these other guys and gals, And for their characters, it absolutely is vital. But with the Bray and whatever name he's going to be going for, and I guess it's going to be Bray Wyatt, but if he's going to take like another incarnation, if a character is going to be White Rabbit, there's just, again, so many things, right? But for now, we'll just stick with calling him Bray. I'm not stressed, like I'm sitting here in like fantasy booking along with everything else, but I'm more reserved in the fact that I want to sit back and see how it plays out. I want to see, like, I'm so fucking excited to tune into Monday Night Raw. Like, I don't even know who's playing football, I mean, I'm not the biggest football fan, but of course it's football season, right? So, yeah, like, my number one thought is just, what is this going to mean for Bray? Does he open the show? What does it look like? I mean, obviously, we're not going to get a 15-minute promo segment, but is it going to be like another Firefly Funhouse? Are we going to, like, what kind of segments are we going to get from him? So, of course, we'll get into the nitty-gritty more so once we get to that portion of the show. But for me, guys, like, I'm not in the camp of people that are kind of like, okay, that's cool, he's back, but he sucks in the ring, like, he's diminished all these other guys, like, he shouldn't have been champion. Like, for me, like, I'm just so fucking tickled pink that he's back, and I'm so excited for the character, because of course I love a good wrestling match, but I love the story. I love the why. I love the business side of it. I love just the behind the scenes stuff, in the sense like what I was saying earlier, just like the thought and just seeing what the person and the individual who's portraying that character, what they think that character is, and seeing it come to life. And I love that, and I think that's why I love wrestling so much personally. I mean, of course, like, again, like, and gave me a good solid wrestling match, and I'm here for that as well. But I think you need a healthy balance, and I think that was missing. Obviously, there was a huge void, and especially with Undertaker no longer being around. Even he was even limited capacity in the past decade, and not saying in the sense that we need like a supernatural vibe or a supernatural character or anything like that necessarily. We just need something. We just need depth. We need that dimension that Bray brings. So I don't know. I think there's just so many possibilities, and like I said, we'll obviously get into it once we get to the main event or what happened after the main event, and the big reveal. But I don't know. It's one of those things where it's all about how you finish, right? And they finished fucking like so well, and I think that the presentation was just so well done. The door, just everything, and it wasn't just a simple door, right? It was kind of like leading from like a cave, and it was kind of almost like a resurrection. It had like a grassy ambiance on top of it, and the light that was coming off of it, and just like it was just so beautifully like told, and the visual concept was just so well done. And of course we got the characters scattered throughout the arena. So yeah, I need to stop talking about it now before I get into it here. But I do want to run down the whole card itself, obviously, because that's the whole point. So again, we will start off with the opening of the show. We got Michael Cole and Corey Graves, who were here for commentary. Michael Cole mentioned that the attendance was 15,944, which I believe he mentioned it was a sellout as well. So kudos to them. That's pretty dope. The first match was the Brawling Brutes versus Imperium. Just so well done. I believe it went a little under 20 minutes, maybe a few minutes shy of 20 minutes. It was, again, I love the setup. I think they did the perfect amount too. I don't think they got too cheesy or hammy with it, right? With the setup and the shenanigans, if you will, with the display. But I think they did just enough with like the whiskey barrels, the little bar setup, and the various objects around it. I think it was good, and I liked the little picture that they had as well. I believe they said it was Sheamus' grandfather, and I think that was in the previous Donnybrook match also. So of course Imperium, being the jackasses they are, destroyed the picture of Sheamus' grandfather. But I was really surprised that Imperium started off the match and they were dominating really early on. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be surprised with them again being the heels. But coming off of the one-on-one match that Sheamus and Gunther had on SmackDown, with the whole controversy on did Gunther really tap in and everything like that, and was it a botch? And first of all, no, like, it wasn't a botch at all. Like, we've seen that dozens, if not hundreds of times, like, and it just really hasn't stood out, I guess, or I don't know, like, I don't know, like, I know I've seen wrestlers tap like twice. And I don't know, a lot of times it's for repositioning in the ring, or it's just like to I guess, like, psych themselves up. I don't know, like, yes, like, at first when he was doing it, I was like, oh shit, and then once he stopped that too, I was like, okay. And then just seeing the reaction, I was just like, okay, like, I get, of course, now they need to capitalize on the reaction, but I think that that's the perfect setup, where they intended to get this kind of, not backlash in the negative sense, but just this uproar, if anything. But like I was saying in the prediction show, that sets up even a more perfect route for Sheamus and Gunther at WrestleMania for the IC Championship. So I'm definitely here for that. And again, this match was exactly what it needed to be too. This match, the Donnybrook match. A couple moments that really stood out, when I think it was Kaiser who came back into the ring at one point, kind of early-ish on, and broke a shillelagh over the back of Sheamus. It's just, like, Sheamus takes such a fucking beating. It's unreal. And I'm pretty certain the guy has spinal stenosis as well, and he's been battling it for probably years at this point. I don't get it. There's human beings, and then there's dudes like Sheamus, like, in the world, and I don't understand, like, where they come from, like, and how they are. But I give all you guys and gals who are built like that out there so much credit, because I I don't think I would be that person. So yeah, man, like, and that was, like I said, kind of early-ish on in the match. So and again, like, I don't know, like, the exact making of this shillelagh at hand, but regardless, like, that shit looked fucking brutal. So that was just one of the things that just really stood out to me. But then right after that, we had Gunther and Sheamus in the ring again, and they started throwing chops at each other, which, again, like, count me out exchanging chops with Gunther. Like, he would probably crush me. Like, if I got a chop from Gunther, I would probably be a pile of bones. I just a mess, you know what I mean? Like, and after one, so let alone, like, I don't even know how many they've exchanged at this point. Like, I just people, and that's why it always and that's why I think, and not to go off on a rant here, because you guys know I can and will, but that's why it kind of infuriates me, low-key, when people say it's fake and everything like that, because it's like, I don't understand what they get, first of all, out of, like, stating that. Like, okay, like, first of all, what's your point? Like, what are you trying to accomplish, right? But second of all, it's like, yes, things are predetermined and choreographed and shit like that, but, like, not, of course, like, not everything connects, and that's the whole fucking point. But, like, when you see these dudes fucking chopping each other and shit like this, like, man, like, get out of here. Like, get the fuck out, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, like, I don't have time for people like that. But a few minutes after that, outside we had just a beautiful moonsault from Butch. He was on top of one of the whiskey barrels. He hit a moonsault onto Kaiser, Vinci, and Holland out there. So just beautiful, just so well done. And I think Pete Dunne, Butch, has really been a low-key MVP. You know what I mean? And I think that he's really adapted to this Butch character. And I'm not even pressed, as I say, like, as I'm about to say this, don't kill me, guys. I'm not even pressed to see him revert back to Pete Dunne. Like, I feel like it will happen in time, but I'm really digging, like, seeing this different side of him, and seeing what he can put in and get out of this character. And, like, say what you want about Vince and a lot of the dumb bullshit characters that we got over the years and decades, but not all of it is bad, and not all of it is necessarily a negative. And I think that it does put you or it takes you out of your comfort zone, rather. And I think it forces you, obviously, into something you never would have dreamed of doing for yourself. And I think it just opens up another layer. So I think this kind of has for Pete Dunne in a weird way. And look, I'm not saying I want him to be Butch for the rest of his career, unless he wants to be, like, if this is a new love of his, then hey, cool, then put in 100%, and I'm not saying he hasn't already, but, like, if that's what you want to do, then hey, dude, I'm all for it. But I think we'll see Pete Dunne sooner rather than later. But wrapping up the match here, the last sequence rather was so cool too. We finally got to see Sheamus hit the Celtic Cross on Gunther through the broadcast table. I know it wasn't anything too crazy, but for whatever reason, it just really stood out to me. And I think if I'm not mistaken, the fans really reacted to that spot as well, at least the fans in the nearby area. It was just, I think it was kind of just like a final nail in the coffin, at least for the Gunther part right now. And maybe that's not the proper analogy, but I don't know, or maybe like a pin in the board for later, you know what I mean? And a good sturdy pin until maybe, I don't know, January Royal Rumble time frame. But after that, we went back into the ring. Sheamus was in there, or returned to the ring, where Holland and Butch were holding Vinci, I believe it was, yeah. And Sheamus was just hamming it up to the crowd, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they really got to capitalize on the Sheamus momentum. I don't know exactly where they go from here with Sheamus, but we got to do something. But he, like I said, hammed it up and then hit Vinci with the bro kick and got the 1, 2, 3. And I'm pretty certain this is what I predicted, that the Brawling Brutes are going to get the W here. And again, nothing, nothing groundbreaking there with that prediction or anything like that. But I'm happy for Sheamus. I'm happy for the Brutes, and I'm happy with that match. And I think if nothing else, Sheamus maybe deserves like a few weeks off just to go home and just fucking heal and just relax. But knowing Sheamus, I would not be surprised to see him even on Raw for whatever weird reason. But certainly wouldn't be surprised to see him on SmackDown. But one last thing here too, I like that he didn't pin Gunther, and I like that he pinned Vinci, or at least just anyone else besides Gunther, because I think if and when they do run it back for the third time, especially for the championship, it's just gonna make pinning Gunther that much more, So I like that small little note, and I'm pretty certain Triple H did that for a specific reason. So I can't wait to see when Sheamus actually gets his crowning moment. At this point, you got to do it at Mania, so I would be not disappointed, but kind of bummed if they don't do it at Mania for Sheamus at this point. We saw Miz backstage. I believe it was his birthday celebration. I don't know if like Saturday was his actual birthday or when his actual birthday is, but it's sometime within the next few days. So I guess officially happy birthday, Miz. But he mentioned that we'll be getting a birthday celebration on Raw. With him and Maurice, so I'm not certain what we should be expecting there. Getting a little callback from the Edge and Lita days, but Miz was distracted by something off camera, and it turns out it was the Philadelphia Flyers mascot Gritty, who tried to give him an Extreme Rules t-shirt. Miz was not happy and was not there to be entertained by Gritty. He was simply looking for Triple H to, I guess, get to the bottom of the whole Loomis thing. Miz pretty much just discarded the shirt, threw it on the ground. I think he even stepped on it and just pretty much left. Miz was not having it. He did not want to put it over his, I think he said it was $10,000 suit, so, which wouldn't surprise me if it was, but that was just the beginning segment for Miz and the kind of the thread for Miz throughout the night. The next matchup we had was Liv Morgan, our SmackDown Women's Champion, facing off and defending against Ronda Rousey in an Extreme Rules match for, of course, the SmackDown Women's Championship. I'm not going to get too much into this match. The whole angle kind of starting off the match was, of course, trying to get Liv, and Liv was trying to prove that she can get extreme and that she can stand her ground against Ronda Rousey and kind of prove her point. That was why she requested the match, to prove she can, get in the ring and stand up against the baddest bitch on the planet or whatever, that being Ronda Rousey. At the beginning, I believe Morgan actually brought her own bat to the ring, or at least she had one that was like all like dolled up or whatever. Had like tassels or something. But she was trying to pretty much use it as a weapon, obviously. And Ronda was kind of like motioning that she didn't need a bat, and to, do whatever. But then she kind of took the bat and the bat went flying. So there was that. It was just kind of weird. She was like welcoming her to hit her, and then just kind of, I don't know. I mean, obviously you don't want to get hit with a bat, but she was just kind of like suckering her in. But it was just kind of like I don't know. I would have just been like, why wouldn't you start off the match like it's an Extreme Rules match? Like, why wouldn't you start off with like a kendo stick or something else? And I get that she's Ronda Rousey and she was saying that she doesn't need a weapon, but that's the whole point of this match, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's just too much, and probably not even what I should have been thinking about. But we, of course, the action went to ringside because it's Extreme Rules match, so it has to. At the beginning here, too, we were trying to get the fire extinguisher involved, and Liv Morgan was just kind of struggling with it at first. And I think Cole had mentioned it was, like, cold or something like that. I don't know, it was just... I love hearing Michael Cole, like, pretty much, like, I don't want to say completely unfiltered, but just, like, with no handcuffs and pretty much, I'm assuming, no one, essentially screaming in his ear. It's just free, and like you just hear some like random shit, and I just love it. You hear random callbacks to matches and stuff like that. Like for instance, with the strap match, like after Extreme Rules wrapped up, I went back and I watched Sting and Vader in their strap match. So it's just like, and I can guarantee you, like I probably wouldn't have thought to do that after the Extreme Rules match if someone else was in charge, and Triple H wasn't there, and I can guarantee you Michael Cole would not have referenced that match if Triple H was not in charge, and he just didn't have the freedom, to be able to do a callback, and it's just so cool, and like it makes it feel that much more important. So I don't know, just little things like that just really stand out to me, especially now. Rousey finally got hold of the baseball bat though and started hitting Morgan with some pretty light shots. I mean, again, I don't want to see anyone get really beat, obviously beat, but it's like some of the shots just didn't really look all that impactful throughout the match, so it just kind of took you out a little bit. And I hate to say it because like I mad respect to everyone who is doing what they do, you know, in this world. But like I don't know, like to me, I would rather be hit harder than lighter. You know what I mean? And of course, I'm sitting here saying that at home, you know, in my comfy seat, in my my comfortable environment, and these women are out there and men are out there getting beat the fuck up, and or I don't know, just putting their body out there. So it's easier said than done, and I pretty much have no room to talk. But it's like at the same token too, like I think we give, I mean, for me, like I've said in the past, we give feedback because we love the sport, right? We love wrestling, we love watching what we watch, so it's all with love, you know what I mean? But of course, after that, we won tables, chants started breaking out, and Morgan went to pick up the baseball bat and hit Rousey with it. Rousey rolled back to the floor and threw the gi at Morgan that she had wore out there. Took the black belt and whipped Morgan with it, which is pretty. I'll give her credit. I was, not too light there. But she continued to use the black belt to tie Morgan to the ring post. After that, she grabbed the bat and started to hit Morgan with the bat. So there were some moments where they did redeem themselves, but I don't know. It was just, I feel like, especially Rousey too, it's probably really still difficult too to get out of that mindset as well. So I don't know. I would love to be like a fly on the wall in her brain. You know what I mean? Little ways after that, Morgan and Rousey got back into the ring, and Morgan had actually hit a codebreaker onto Rousey, who had a chair in front of her face. So she, of course, ended up getting the impact there. Which is just, it's funny to me to see the codebreaker being used, because I remember when Jericho first started using it, what was that, 2008? And I just remember thinking like, man, that's just like a really cool looking move. And now I feel like a lot of people are using it. So it's just, again, just like another one of those, what was the finishing move, now almost like a transition move. But Morgan did attempt to at least get the 3 count there, and Ronda Rousey ended up kicking out. Very near fall, which was pretty believable. After that, though, Morgan ended up setting up a table in the middle of the ring and placed Ronda on top of it, and ended up hitting the senton that put Rousey through the table. She covered Rousey for another near fall and then applied a submission hold onto that. Morgan powered up Rousey and slammed her onto the broken table again, which is pretty brutal looking. That spot always gets me. But that led to another 2 count. Rousey countered that into a different submission hold, which Michael Cole ended up calling it a biceps crusher. But I'm blanking on but it's like a bicep. Gosh, I'm blanking on it, but I know it's not crusher. But Morgan ended up smiling as she was passing out from that, and which of course forced the referee to call for the bell. But it was just, I don't know, a weird visual. Like I think that's, and of course I didn't see the clip, but I'm pretty certain that Liv, they caught her backstage and they did like a follow-up interview and referenced it, and I think she's going to be going to a more edgier, darker character. And again, that's what I was kind of calling for as well. Not necessarily like a bad guy, but just a darker route. But nonetheless, we got to the destination we needed, which was Ronda Rousey being the SmackDown Women's Champion again. I think that just sets up Charlotte Flair to come back. I don't see Charlotte Flair, I don't know why to say her first name and last name, but I don't see Charlotte winning the title against Rousey. I think that sets up just a nice 3-month-ish feud, maybe to Royal Rumble, until you get to your Royal Rumble winner, excuse me, who I think will possibly be Becky Lynch, if I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, which I always do. And then, of course, that sets up our route to the man, Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey, and we finally get that one-on-one match at WrestleMania in LA. I think that frees up Charlotte to face Bianca. I don't know how exactly we get there, but we will. But then I think that leaves another void as well, and that's what you do with Bayley, right? You have Bayley come back. You can't just have Bayley not have a marquee matchup on the card. And I think who better than Sasha Banks? Sasha Banks and Bayley finally get their one-on-one match at WrestleMania. I don't even want to think about who goes over at this point, but man, like I just think that would be, on so many levels, just so fucking good. Like, you think back to their NXT Brooklyn days and just everything that they've done in their respective careers, and I just think that would be a perfect 3 3-part to like a monumental shift, I think, in the women's division, I think, or at least spotlighted in the women's division. And I think maybe not necessarily shift, obviously, but I think that would be a good trio. Singles matches as well. So, and I think there's obviously still a lot of room on the table. You can add some more matches in there as well. But for whatever reason, when I thought and just kind of looked at like the quick lay of the land, and I thought, well, you can't leave Bayley. Like immediately, I thought of Sasha. As crazy as it sounds, guys, like I really hope we get Sasha back at WWE. Like I really don't want to see her go to AEW right now. And again, look, if Wednesday I turn on AEW and we see Mercedes Varnado on AEW Dynamite, I'm gonna be just as happy, and excited for her because that's what she wants to do. If that's the case, but I just think with everything changing and just the landscape changing in WWE and just unless there's more things that we aren't privy to, which obviously, there probably is, but if there's, in the sense that she just can't ignore, right, and she's just so unhappy and she just needs a break and just needs a change in her schedule and just in her life, because again, like, she's been here for how many years now in the WWE system, so I can imagine you need just like a mental break and just, you want to continue wrestling and you want to continue doing what you're doing, but you want to do it somewhere else, just for the simple fact of doing it somewhere else, so yeah, like, I don't know, I'm way off into fantasy land there, but that was just like the immediate thing that I thought of. But next up we got the strap match, which of course is Drew McIntyre facing off against Karrion Kross. And I love to, before each match, we got a nice video package for every match on the card here. I'm pretty certain it was every match. And I just love it. It was, a quick maybe minute, 2 minute, maybe 3 minute video clip or video package rather, for the match. And it just, each match, it just makes it feel bigger, and it's just, it's a nice recap and a nice, how did we get here? So just, me personally, just one of those little things that just kind of means a lot. But the match itself started with the referee Jessica Carr trying to put the strap onto Cross's wrist, but he threw it down. Scarlett grabbed the other end and tugged on it, which distracted McIntyre long enough for Cross to attack him. And I think they went on pretty much just beating the shit out of each other for about 10 minutes, I think. Maybe. I could be off on the timing there. Before the match even started, though. Like, they went a good amount of time without the match officially starting. But McIntyre finally was able to put the strap on Karrion Kross's wrist, and the referee was officially able to call for the bell to officially start the match. We again went back out to ringside with Scarlett getting in McIntyre's face, which I think just sets up their next match, going to be a cage match, to kind of pretty much eliminate Scarlett, just with the amount of interference, which not illegal interference because there's no rules, but just interference that she had in the match, you know what I mean? It again, is to be expected, but I think that sets up a nice part 2 for these guys, being a cage match. But we were able to make our way back into the ring with Cross setting up McIntyre and hitting the Doomsday Sato tongue-tied there. The Doomsday Saito suplex that led to a near fall. Cross whipped McIntyre into the or he just whipped, rather, McIntyre with the strap several times. And the report I'm reading, rather, and if I didn't mention earlier, which I'm pretty certain I didn't, it's from ProWrestling.net, so shout out to you guys out there. I'm pretty certain it was Jason Powell who wrote this article, so it's not you guys, it's me, and it's kind of been a long day. But we got a good amount of suplexes again from McIntyre, which is nothing new and nothing surprising. His suplexes just always look so vicious, though, and just so crisp. They're just so well done, and especially on the bigger guys. It's crazy. Like, for me, it seems like the bigger opponent that McIntyre works with, like, it's almost better for him. It's just like a weird thing. So shout out to him too, though. But towards the end of the match, McIntyre started whipping Cross several times and then performed a Future Shock DDT. McIntyre kicked up again and got the countdown for the Claymore kick. Scarlett, though, entered the ring and stood in front of McIntyre. He tried to walk around her because, of course, he's a good guy and he's not going to physically hurt her. But she stopped him and sprayed him with, like, essentially, I'm pretty certain they said it was pepper spray, which allowed Cross to hit the crosshammer shot to the back of McIntyre's head and then pin him. And that obviously did confirm that this strap match was not a strap match where you had to hit 4 corners or anything like that. So yeah, it was, I don't know. It was a good match. It was fine. It just something was kind of missing though, and I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see because I'm certain we're gonna get a cage match or some type of follow up with them. But it was just kind of, I don't know. It was just something was missing, I think. But I'm okay with the finish though, especially with Scarlett getting involved there because it kind of saves McIntyre again. Maybe not necessarily that he needs it, but it's just a nice little another layer of protection there. But after that, though, we got another segment with Miz backstage. Apparently, he was on the phone with Miz. They were setting up his birthday weekend, I guess, and he was assuring her that nothing was going to go wrong during the celebration, because of course not. Then we got another appearance from our friend Gritty. They were just kind of going back and forth. I think Miz ended up storming away, and at the end of that scene there, but Miz is just so good. Even the dumb segments, he's just so good at his job. But the next matchup was Bianca Belair versus Bayley in the ladder match for the Raw Women's Championship. To be honest with you guys, my feed started kind of cutting out a little bit for whatever reason. I'm not really sure what happened in this match, so I gotta go back and watch the whole match in its entirety. It kind of cut out towards the I guess middle to the end, ironically, right when Io Sky and Dakota Kai came out to help save Bayley from losing the match when Bianca was going to win to pull the title down. Pretty much immediately, once Bianca Belair was, of course, distracted and she couldn't pull the title down because of the interference, Io Sky was going to the top rope to hit her beautiful moonsault that she is just so fucking great at hitting. Somehow Bianca Belair was able to get Sky and Kai onto her back to hit a double KOD, and Michael Cole was just losing his shit at ringside and saying, "Did we just see that?" And I think this was the part where he stood up, and you could kind of see him in the background. So he's definitely enjoying life right now, and it's like I said earlier, pretty cool to see. But after that, Bayley had placed a ladder in the corner over the middle rope and put Belair down with her rose plant finisher. Speaking of hair, though, really quick, Bayley referencing the ponytail last week on Raw and saying that she used to have a ponytail too was just so, like, I don't know, I just really enjoyed that simple callback. I don't know why, it just really tickled me. But Bayley climbed the ladder, but Belair pushed it up, kind of bench press style, causing Bayley to fall and crash into the ropes when Bayley was trying to climb to the top of the ladder in the ring to, of course, retrieve the title. After that, the wrestlers climbed opposite sides of the ladder back into the middle of the ring again. They fall near the top of the ladder. Bayley slammed Bianca's head onto one of the rungs of the ladder. Bayley went for the bell. Bianca recovered and used her braid to whip Bayley a couple times. And that, golly, like, I'll never forget the whip that she did to Sasha Banks and just the immediate welt. But man, every time she does that, and I love that she doesn't do it so frequently, but she saves it. God, it just makes me fucking cringe every time. Just thinking about it now, I can't even imagine what that feels like. But that did set up Bianca Belair to climb the ladder and pull down the title to win the match and retain her championship. It went a little over 15 minutes. I think it was around 16. Yeah, they said 16:40. I don't know. Again, if you listen to the prediction show, I thought that Bayley was going to pull it out here. So this is one of the ones that I was saying earlier, I'm very interested to see what they do with Bayley and damage control going forward. And Bianca Belair for that matter too, if it is going to be an immediate thing with Charlotte, if she just returns and goes straight to SmackDown or to Raw. I think, again, like I said earlier, you go to SmackDown first, then to Raw if you're Charlotte, but I don't know. I don't know what you do with Bianca going forward, so it'll be interesting to see that. The next matchup on the card we had was Edge versus Finn Balor in an I Quit match. Edge always, and again, the pop and the reaction that Edge gets is just so next level. He is a star, and it's just so cool to see. And again, like, it's crazy to think that a few years ago we didn't even have Edge. You know, like, this still would have been just like a pipe dream. He was on his podcast saying that he was never going to wrestle again, to not put that idea out there, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just fast forward not even 3, 4, or 5 years later, and here he is. So it's just, again, so cool to see him back and to see the monster reaction that he gets pretty much anywhere they go. But with that being said, though, I love the remix of Finn's music that we got tonight. It was kind of like a remix, a darker, edgier version of his regular entrance theme. And then he came out also wearing this spiked full face mask. Like, it was a full head mask, rather. I kind of wish I was kind of hoping he was going to leave it on, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it'd be very difficult, but I really dug it. It was a really cool visual. If you didn't see it, I definitely just recommend checking it out. It was pretty cool. So yeah, it was just like a cool, darker version of Finn. I'm just really here for it. This match ended up going like around 30 minutes, guys, so I'm not going to break it down too much, but the nitty-gritty of the match pretty much was what you thought it was going to be. It started off with them going back and forth. Pretty much the only role that the referee had was to just ask each wrestler if they were ready to quit. They would go back and forth saying no, never, just what you expect. And it's kind of awkward too. Like, it's just kind of awkward. You hearing the moan and groan, like, as they're trying to catch their breath and say no, and just sell the beating. It's got to be kind of awkward. But towards, as we're making our way through the match, rather, Edge had applied a submission hold, which prompted Damian Priest to run out, going after Edge, who cleared him from the ring. Dominic Mysterio ran out. Edge dumped Balor onto the apron, then ran the ropes and speared him, and both men fell onto Priest and to Dom. Kind of a domino effect there, no pun intended. Edge threw Balor back inside the ring and set up for the spear. Rhea Ripley then popped up on the apron and handcuffed Edge to the top rope, which is a perfect spot. Ripley smiled and showed Edge that she had the key. She's such a good fucking heel, man. Like, she's just so, I'm really digging the heel side of her, and I hope that they let her continue to run with it. But Balor, Priest, and Dom entered the ring and continued and stood behind Edge, rather, who turned around, kind of knowing that they were there, started throwing punches, and they obviously quickly outnumbered him and started beating him down. And it went in like a weirdly, oddly a good amount of time before anyone like came out to help Edge. It was kind of like, okay, maybe just Ray isn't here, but Edge has no other friends. Like, what? Rey Mysterio, his entrance music finally played, because of course it has to. It's just so funny too. Like, if you're a wrestler, like, your music has to play when you're making the save, especially if you're a good guy. But Ray ran out and got the better of Balor and Priest. But then Dominic took out his own father again, because Dominic he's just a bad guy now. He's a bad son. Dominic ran Ray into the barricade and then into the ring post. Dominic held onto his father's arms while delivering boots to his head. Cole kept on asking, "What is wrong with you?" I'm just completely selling it on commentary. He was so good here. He kept on saying, like, "He's your father, for God's sake." Just good lines, you know. Back in the ring, Balor was working over Edge with more kendo stick shots. Beth Phoenix appeared and entered the ring and took the kendo stick from Balor and then worked him over and Priest. Dominic climbed onto the apron and then dropped off when Beth swung the broken kendo stick at him. Rhea Ripley then entered the scene into the ring and ended up going face-to-face with Phoenix, which then prompted the crowd to erupt with a yes chant, which fucking signed me up for it. I think I even tweeted it, like, just book that match now. Like, I'm so here for it. Which I'm pretty certain we'll probably get in the near future when Beth is able to, but, man, like, it's just and it's cool too, the visual, like, they're the similar build, like, they're both badass women. It's just, there's just so much you can get out of that. But Beth and Ripley started throwing punches at each other. Beth ran the ropes and speared Ripley. Phoenix then got the handcuff key from Rhea Ripley. I think she had dropped it or something, and was able to release Edge, who got right up and speared Priest. Edge caught Dominic in the ring, which of course Dominic started begging him off, saying, "I'm so sorry," asking for forgiveness, rather. Offered him a handshake. Edge shook the hand and then kicked him in the balls. Payback is a bitch. Balor returned and put Edge down with a sling blade clothesline, then went for a quarter move, but Edge speared him. Edge got up, speared Balor 2 more times while Phoenix cheered him on from the ringside. Edge had Phoenix bring him in a chair. Edge broke the bottom bar of the bear, which we've seen him do a few times, and used it, putting Balor in a crossface, kind of putting it in his mouth. Ripley entered the ring and hit Phoenix with a pair of brass knuckles. I love the brass knucks too. Just something about a good pair of brass knucks. But then Priest came back in and took out Edge. Priest and Dominic held Edge in place while Balor hit him with a coup de grace. Balor went up top and performed his finisher 2 more times. Cole said Edge must have some broken ribs after all those. I think it ended up being 3 coup de grace after that. Balor took the mic from the referee and told Edge that this is the last time he has to say it. Edge told him to go to hell. The crowd cheered. Cole said that he couldn't believe that Edge's courage. And again, this was tying into what Edge was saying on Raw, that you can't do anything physical to me. Out of nowhere, though, Rhea Ripley brought in another chair from inside of the ring and placed it underneath Beth Phoenix's hair, who again, technically her hair too, but underneath her head, who again, remember, she had been knocked out from the brass knucks. Balor gave Edge pretty much one more chance because Rhea Ripley was threatening to hit a concerto. Of course, Edge said, I quit. Rhea Ripley, being the bad guy that she is, pretty much said, screw you, I don't give a shit, and hit the concerto anyway onto Phoenix. So once Phoenix is able to hopefully make her triumphant return and recovery, I am just dying to see a Ripley versus Phoenix match. I think that's going to be so great. And I hope we don't have to wait too long for it, but I'm willing to. Right? I mean, I don't want to see Beth on Monday or next Monday. I want to see at least a month or a month and a half. Even Survivor Series, I think that'd be a nice return. But now for the payoff that I know you all have been waiting for. We finally have the resolution between Miz and Gritty. Yes, we got the conclusion of Miz and Gritty. After the match, we went backstage and we saw Miz, who was about to knock on Triple H's locker room door. Which it just, stuff like this always tickles me too. It's like, okay, like, first of all, like, you don't have Triple H's phone number, you can't text him real quick, be like, hey man, where's your locker room? Like, it takes you how many hours are we at this point? 2.5, 3 hours into it. Second of all, like, you walk by all those production people, no one knows where Triple H's locker room is. Or maybe he was just chilling and catering, periodically as we caught him, as the cameraman caught him, he was just leaving catering, or he was in a meeting. I don't know. Maybe there's a logical reason why it takes him almost 3 hours to find Triple H's locker room. And it's not just him, it's everyone. It seems like every wrestler backstage, like, it takes them all night to finally find whether it was Vince's locker room or the general manager's locker room or whoever's. It's like, okay, and then the wrestlers showing up late, like, it was always so irritating for me. And I know we're running along here, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here soon. It was just always so irritating to me when you had, like, The Rock and Stone Cold and Triple H, and you're the biggest star on the show, and they're getting there with 5 minutes left into the show, right? Or they're getting there an hour and a half into a 2-hour show. It's like, oh, they're pulling up backstage in their limousine, or Austin's pulling up in his badass truck, and it's like 9, or it's like, at that point, 10:15, 10:30, and the show ends at 11. It's like, dude, like, where you been? It's like, at that point, like, technically, like, if we're, kayfabe, like, you work 1 night a week, 2 nights a week, it's like, what? Like, you show up, like, an hour and a half into technically your shift? It was just so weird to me, like, I don't know, like, to me, that just, because I loved the earlier in the day shots, like, I loved seeing the car pull up to the arena and seeing them get out with their bags, that I totally dig, but when you're telling me that they don't show up, or they show up even just 15 minutes after 9, like, it just always stood out to me as being weird, like, oh, we're just waiting for him to arrive at the arena. Like, y'all motherfuckers don't have time schedules. Like, y'all don't have, like, what? Like, you just show up whenever you want. Like, you only have a 2-hour show. Like, and you're showing up there, like, an hour and a half into it. Like, I was sitting there, like, again, it's probably just me, but I was always sitting there thinking, like, a young Ashley was just like, why are they so late? Like, what's taking so long? Like, why is it a question on if they're gonna show up? Now, if they're injured, like, that's one thing. But it was just, like, to make their triumphant, like, return. It's like, or their triumphant, just, like, save. It's like, I don't know. It's just always so weird to me. But moving on. Miz finally found Triple H's locker room. Gritty showed up with the t-shirt again. Miz just had enough and attacked. And that's probably why Miz was so pissed, too. Because it took him so damn long to find Triple H's locker room. So it's just poor Miz, man. He attacked Gritty. Left him lying, though. Gritty didn't stand a chance. Gritty. Once he turned around, though, Dexter Lumis was behind him. Miz tried to run, but Lumis put him in the finishing hold and just pretty much choked him out. I forget the name of his finishing hold. What's the name of it, guys? Let me know. Lumis ended up helping Gritty, and they walked off, and just, and it was just like a weirdly perfect ending to, like, the little thread, the little story there. But in the perfect cherry on top was Gritty ended up kicking Miz right before he walked away with Loomis, and it seemed like a pretty good kick too. So shout out to Gritty for that. But that set up the video package that we got for our main event, which was Matt Riddle facing off against Seth Rollins in a fight pit match with special guest referee Daniel Cormier, who was pretty much irrelevant in the match. It was kind of a waste to me. Like, and no disrespect, like, it was cool. Like, I'm happy for him. And I was a fan of it going into it, but I don't know. Like, unless I missed something again, like, let me know. I just kind of felt irrelevant. But pretty much right at the jump, a huge "We Want Wyatt" chant started and broke out. So imagine if being in Philly and at the end of the night, if the little copyright signal or a sign went up and they just wrapped it up and they're like, okay, thank you guys. Next time we'll be in Philly is blah blah blah. Get your pre-sale code, blah blah blah. Like, I know Philadelphia would have been fucking livid. But we started off the match again. It was just the ring with no ropes, which is always so jarring. It feels like it's just weird. Like, the wrestlers look weird. Like, Riddle looked weird just standing in there with no ropes. They just look almost naked. It's just like a dog without the collar. It's just like a weird thing. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but like it just really looks like that jarringly different for whatever reason. But we got Rollins, who came out and he was paying an homage to RVD. He had the spray paint, not the spray paint, the airbrushed ring gear in the vest. He didn't wrestle in the vest, but he came out with the vest, had his hair in a ponytail, did the RVD thumb to the thumb points, which was I used to have the little foam hands for the RVD thing. Never a Hulk Hogan foam finger, the RVD thumbs, for the record. But it was just cool, and obviously a cool little tie-in there with Philadelphia as well. That was, I don't know, the match itself started, of course, we get the lowering of the cages, and on the very top was the Extreme Rules colors were purple and green, like neon, so that was the running on the stage. I think it's like a 3-foot stage that they said on the top of the cage, platform rather. You just gotta see the layout of it if you've never seen a fight pit. It's kind of weird to explain. It's like a cage inside of a cage, but then you have a platform on top. I kind of didn't like the colors, but it is what it is. You gotta get your branding right. There was one spot on the top that kind of made me very, very scared for both of them. But again, I trust these guys. But Rollins had picked up Riddle. They had climbed to the top of the platform, so they were on top of, like, essentially like the second cage. Rollins had picked up Riddle and gave him a buckle bomb style powerbomb to the upper cage wall, which I was just very scared. I was terrified. But you could tell that Rollins was being very, very gentle, and he didn't really throw Riddle hard at all because he was probably terrified as well. Because, guys, like, if he would have thrown Riddle to, like, against that cage, and for whatever reason it gave away, it would have been, oh my god, like, I don't even want to think about it. Like, Riddle would have it would have been bad. So it wasn't really that impressive, and even Graves had mentioned that he expected it to be much worse. But again, like, I don't even know why you would have tried that. Like, I get wanting to try it, but it's just you just can't, like, there's just too much risk with that. No safety net at all. So Rollins tried to toss Riddle back inside of the ring, but Riddle swung around on the chain that was holding up the cage to stay onto the upper platform. Rollins put Riddle down with a pedigree. Rollins had started yelling at Cormier, who were still on the lower level, rather. I mean, that was another thing too. They didn't start with the past fight pits. They'd started on top of the cage on the platform. This one they started in the regular ring, which was kind of different. After that, though, Riddle avoided a stomp and then dropped Rollins with an RKO on the platform. Rollins rolled off the platform back inside of the ring. Riddle then leapt from the upper platform and hit a Broton splash on the way down, straight, like, right on top of Rollins. So I know that shit had to have hurt. After that, though, Graves had even mentioned and wondered if Riddle could recover from the move. I know that's a standard thing, but I was even wondering it myself. Like, it was just, I can't imagine the thud that they both felt. But Rollins and Riddle both used the cage to pull themselves up to their feet. And again, to think that Riddle rather does all this barefoot is just fucking insane to me. And I know it's not just him. Like, Solo Sikoa wrestles barefoot. We've had Haku wrestled in the past barefoot. Yokozuna. I know there's a lot of guys, but it's just, it just never ceases to amaze me. But after that, once they got back to their feet, Riddle went for a triangle, but Rollins was able to hoist him up and ran him into the cage wall twice before slamming him onto the mat. Riddle maintained the hold, though, and maintained the triangle chokehold, essentially, and was just yelling at Rollins to tap out, which he ended up doing, which I was very, very surprised by. It was very abrupt, but I loved it. It kind of fed into a real UFC fight can end at any moment. So it was cool. It went a little over 15 minutes, about 16:35 it looks like, and I'm very happy Matt Riddle won. Again, I think with this match too, I think maybe I was expecting a little bit too much, but I don't really know what I was expecting, but I really enjoyed it. I think that again, maybe there's just one little thing missing, and I don't even know what it could be. But I'm sure if I went back and I rewatched it now, I probably wouldn't be as harsh on it. But I still enjoyed it. But again, this is another one where I'm kind of wondering what happens next. But the main event and the main reason why everyone is here, we finally made it, guys. After the match, Cormier and Riddle were walking back up to the ramp, to the main platform of the stage. Cormier raised Riddle's hand. Once they got to the top, the lights went out, and the fans immediately turned on their cell phone lights for the Fireflies, and it began. Cole started asking Graves if they were still in the air. A slow version of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands started playing, which is just so beautiful. The lights went on a couple different parts of the arena and showed life-size versions with real people in real life-size costumes, which is fucking creepy as shit, I love. The Firefly Funhouse puppets. So we got each one individually. It was just, again, so beautifully well told. And just so happens end up being 5 puppets. Wind up 6. Obviously Bray Wyatt is the 6th, so that kind of plays into, are we going to see these puppets be real characters in a real faction, or if it's just a final send-off for them, since they didn't get their proper send-off from the Funhouse to begin with. The cameras cut back to the broadcast table, though, where we saw a severed Fiend head on the announce table. Cole then was pretty much like, fuck this shit, and left. Don't blame him. We then saw a man wearing a Fiend mask right near the ringside, on the other side of the barricade, which people just lost their shit for, but you could clearly tell that it wasn't the Fiend. It was just obviously someone dressed up as the Fiend. They then cut to a shot of a doorway on a stage with the dilapidated Firefly Funhouse shown with cobwebs on the screen and various puppets lying motionless. Oh, just beautiful, guys. We got a warped version of the Firefly Funhouse theme starting to play. After that, we got a television turning on and a shot of a demonic face that was shown, and a warped version of Bray Wyatt could be heard speaking. You gotta go see this fucking clip, guys. Please, stop this now and go see this clip if you haven't seen it. But we cut back to the doorway on the stage, which had a light behind it. The doorway itself, too, like I said earlier, was kind of like a cave almost, a resurrection type feel. You had like a grassy scenery on top. It was pretty much like an oval. And then, of course, the door itself. The light that was shining through before the door opened was a blue light. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but I saw somewhere on Twitter. Someone had mentioned that it was very similar and reminiscent to the light that Brody Lee had shining when he had made his debut in AEW as the Exalted one. So, if that is the case and that was a callback, then that's very, very well done. And then there was also, I think it was Sister Abigail, who had a mask that was, the mask that Luke Harper had won and when he was part of the Bludgeon Brothers with Eric Harper. I, again, didn't see that myself, but that was something that I saw. So if that is the case, brilliant. But back to the doorway that was on the stage itself again. The door opened with the light shining through and then turned off. The screen went black, and then Bray Wyatt walked through the doorway with his lantern in hand. Wyatt was wearing a demonic mask that had appeared on television. It looked very similar to that new movie on Peacock. Oh, I think it's like Black Phone or something. I saved it on my list because it looked fucking creepy, so I wanted to watch it. I think it's Black Phone or something like that, but it looked very, very similar to that. Fans started losing their minds saying, holy shit, which how can you not? Wyatt, they removed the mask, which is what I mentioned earlier. I was very surprised about, revealing that it was actually him, which led to an even bigger eruption. Wyatt looked into the camera and said, "I'm here," then blew out the lantern. An insect symbol appeared on the screen, and then the show ended there. The insect symbol was pretty much like a butterfly moth upside down type thing, with, I think there was like a number 6 somewhere. But my fucking goodness, guys, everything about it, the lead up, the QR codes, the mystery, everything, the cobwebs in the Firefly Funhouse to make it look like it's been abandoned for God knows how long. Just the different variations of the puppets that we saw throughout the arena. The fact that they actually got they got characters and they got costumes of these puppets and stood them in the arena and were willing and ballsy enough to have these creepy fucking characters out there standing next to kids, and they weren't scared and they weren't concerned rather to scare kids, you know what I mean? Like, they just went all out. I love it. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, it makes you want to tune into Raw. And I think they'd be smart to have a thread throughout Raw as well. Again, I don't know what version of Bray Wyatt we're going to see, what type of character he's going to be. And that's the best part about it. I think that we're lucky that he's back. We're lucky that we have Triple H in charge. We're lucky that, I'm just going to say it, we're lucky that he didn't sign anywhere else. And we're lucky that he waited it out, and we're lucky that he's back in WWE. I mean, not everything is fucking perfect. There's a lot that can go wrong. I'm sure there's going to be times where I'm like, you know, like what the fuck is this type thing, you know what I mean? But this is, again, like I was saying earlier, just one of those things where I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. And I'm not going to be too critical on. I think this is one of the things we just have to enjoy and just let it play out. So that wraps up the whole show itself. Again, we are on our way to Monday Night Raw to see the fallout from Bray Wyatt. Seth Rollins should have his United States Championship match against Bobby Lashley, which I'm, again, surprised that they had announced that already. But thank you guys so much for checking out the show. We will be back, hopefully, early-ish of this week, depending on my schedule. But thank you guys again so much for checking out the show and for listening. Take care, guys, and have a fantastic week.